Hey guys, so today we're going to be working on the CRF 250L rally, and I got a couple of things I'm going to work on this morning. So one of the things I'm going to do is loosen up the rear wheel, loosen up the chain, and I'm going to remove the front sprocket. Currently I've got a 13 tooth on the front, which I was using a lot for off-road, but eventually it's going to start raining here and it's going to get to the point where I really can't do too many more trails. Are going to be flooded. So I'm going to put the 14 tooth back on. I've got a 42 tooth in the rear. So it'll give me just a little bit of top end. That way I can ride streets better. And that's probably what I'll be doing throughout the rainy season is, mostly street rides. The trails are just going to be too disgusting out here to actually get this thing through. So today we're going to take that 13 tooth off, put the 14 tooth back on, and readjust the chain, tighten it up, and from there I'm going to try to lift the front wheel up, take that off completely, and I'm going to go ahead and pull the axle out, the axle bolt. I'm going to clean all of that out because I've been hitting the trails. I'm sure that thing's pretty disgusting, so I'm going to clean that, the bearings, everything out, and re-grease, lube everything, and put it back together today. So that's kind of the project for today. I was thinking about an oil change, but I think I could probably hold off just a little bit longer on that. I don't think it's really going to need it too bad. So I might wait another 3, 4, 5 weeks and then go ahead and do that. But today we'll go ahead and get started on this. So I'm going to flip the camera around. So give me a second here, go over the tools, what we need to do these projects, and we'll get started. All right guys, so these are the tools I'm going to be using today for this particular job. Obviously I've got my new sprocket for the front, which is a 14 tooth cleaning rag, just some brake cleaner, clean off any dust, debris, anything from when I take the 13 tooth off. And down here for my tools, there is this little cover right here, and this is an 8mm socket, so I'll be using this one here for the 8mm. For the rear wheel, break it loose. This is a 24mm, and this is also a torque wrench, so later on we'll be able to torque it back to the proper specs. We also have the 12mm, 10mm, and then just a open box wrench here, which I'm going to use on this side just to kind of hold that nut right there, just so it doesn't spin as I'm loosening up the bolt on the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and set this camera up here and restart this. This way you can actually watch the process and see how this goes. Hopefully I don't destroy this. Back in a minute. All right guys, so got the bolt loose here. Now these adjusting nuts, we're gonna have to loosen these up. This way we can push the wheel in, loosen up the chain, and be able to get the front sprocket off in a moment. So that was the 12 mil. Now we'll go to the 10. Got this out. I'm gonna go install it in so we can start to scratch and put it back together. All right, that one's all the way in, so we'll be able to push this up in a moment. I just got to do the other side now, so pause the camera, reset on here so you guys can watch what's going on. So got those set now. This is loosened up, so I'm going to get the stand, move all these tools out of the way. We're going to lift this bike up a little bit, get that wheel free, and we can push that in now, loosen up that chain, and then we'll take the cover off. All right, so that's pushed up. See, now we got some play in the chain. We got enough room here. Once we open this up, now we'll be able to take that sprocket off, put the 14 tooth back on, and then basically just do everything in reverse. Pull this back, tighten it back up, make sure we got enough play in the chain. It's not too tight, not too loose, and this thing's ready to go. So give me a second here. I'm gonna turn the camera around, get another angle for you so you can see what's going on over here, and we'll get this going. Okay guys, so I've got the 8mm socket. I'm gonna go ahead and get this set up to take these two screws off. There's one below and one above here. Just gonna loosen these up. Shit.
It was at this moment that he knew he fucked up.
That's not a good thing.
Well, that's never good. All right, guys, so had a little hiccup here. I was able to break the top bolt loose, but unfortunately by the time I got to the second one down here, my 8mm socket stripped out. So I guess it was a cheap one that I bought. So I just took a break, went up the store, got another 8mm brand new. I was able to break this free, so now we just keep on going and take these out. There you go. So basically just take the cover off. We can clean this up in a minute. And now we've got our 13 tooth sitting in there. Chain's loose. We should be able to slide this out. But first we've got these other two bolts that are holding this on. So I'm gonna have to take these off. I think, well, these might be a 10mm, so I'll have to switch this out. Let's see. Yeah, that's a 10mm for these two bolts. So take these off. All right. All right, now you have this little washer here, so you're gonna have to turn it so it lines up with these little grooves, and just slide that out. So we're gonna keep that right here, ready to go. That faces out. All right, so now should be able to pull this away enough to hopefully get this out. There we go. Maybe. Not really cooperating very well. Come on, you can do it. Hop out. All right. One down. Now I gotta figure out where I'll put my 14 tooth. Here it is. So now we got the 14 tooth, and there's a flat side smooth here, that goes to the back, and you can see you got the two holes where the bolts are going to go, and that's where I originally had this on previously. You can see where that little washer was. So see if we can fit this back in just as easy. All right, so that's on. Got our washer. Again, we're gonna line this up with the grooves and then just hopefully get it to turn with those holes so they match up for the bolts. And we'll line these up. And of course, they don't want to line up. That would just be my luck. So let's try it the other way. Take this out, turn it the other way. Let's try this. There we go. Now it lines up. Sometimes you just got to play with it a little bit to get it right. Our 10mm socket again, and tighten it back up. All right, hold that wheel. All right. Now she's back on. We'll switch this out. Go back to the 8mm. And this cover really isn't that dirty, surprisingly. All the mud and stuff I've been going through and sand and dirt, it's really not too bad. We'll just clean that off a little bit. But for the most part, it's not too bad. All right, that looks decent. All right, this little groove here goes down around the shifter. So we're gonna slide this in so that goes over. Holes match up. Try to get one bolt in first, get the second one going. Get that started. Fill them. Alright, so we're going to get these on tight, but you don't want to over tighten them either. You don't want to cause any damage or strip the bolts out. So just snug enough. It's not going to come loose. Alright, that's on. Now, back to the wheel. We got to reset that and we're good to go. So take a break here, reset the camera, we'll get going again in a minute. Alright guys, so back to the rear tire now. We're going to have to pull this back a little bit and go ahead and reset the tension on the chain. And we're going to use the 12mm and also a 10mm socket, or not socket, but wrench. So what we're going to go ahead and do is pull this back, get some tension on it a little bit. There we go. So we got that. Now I got to make sure that this is going to be straight as well, so they're going to have to be even on both sides. So what I'm going to have to do is tighten one, tighten the other, go back and forth until they're both balanced. I'm going to use tape measure. I'm going to measure the distance here and make sure that they're the same on both sides, and that way we keep the wheel centered and balanced. And then we'll also check here, check that tension, make sure it's not too tight or too loose. And we should be good to go. So I'll go ahead and get this started. we're doing this, I'm going to try to count out how many rotations that I'm doing. So if I do 3 on this side, I want to try to do 3 on the other side and try to keep it balanced going back and forth between these as much as possible. So I'm going to start with 3 turns here. 1, 2, and 3. Go to the other side, do the same thing. Okay, so pretty much got it lined up. They're both pretty well balanced in this position here. So just gonna tighten that down a little bit so it doesn't move. I'm going to take the 10 mil and go ahead and tighten this back up. Do that on both sides. Just get started. Should be pretty good. Tighten these up. All right. This one up. Okay, got that. And as you can see, I got to redo this, which sucks. This chain is way too tight. So if you're doing these, don't do what I did. Don't tighten this down until you figure this out. So now I got to loosen this back up, start over. So we'll loosen these 10 mil nuts. Alright guys, so got that all set up, so chain should be good. We got the 14 tooth front sprocket put on now. Got the chain clean, sprockets are all clean. Chain tension looks good. So, and the wheel is straight and balanced, which is obviously important. So I think we did pretty good there. So thinking about the next project is taking the front wheel off, lifting the bike up, take the front wheel off, take the axle bolt out, and also take the shock guards off so I can clean the shocks, the front forks, clean those up a little bit, all the dust and debris. Get that clean, get the axle bolt clean, re-grease, and put that back on. So that's step number 2. So give me just a second, we'll get that set up. All right guys, so we're back to the front wheel now. And first thing we're gonna do is obviously lift the bike up so we can get the front wheel off the ground. Before we do that, I actually broke this loose prior to lifting it up, and also loosened these bolts up here just a hair, just to kind of get them started. Once that was done, I went ahead and jacked it up. So I got it, you know, probably about 2-3 inches off the ground, just enough to get some clearance here. Now, before we get started too far, take these little bolts here. I'm gonna go ahead and loosen them up. About finger tight. I don't have to take them all the way out, but you know, at least get them loose. And now we're gonna go ahead and loosen this axle bolt. Get ready to pull this out. So in a second, I'm gonna have to hold the tire so obviously it doesn't fall out or I don't mess up my rotors and stuff here coming out. So I'm trying to get this as far as I can. There we go. So got that out. There we go. And it actually looks pretty good. I'm surprised. I thought this would be a lot dirtier, you know, with all the riding I was doing. So just careful here. Getting this out. Those drop out. All right. Front tire is out. These are a little dirty here. You can see some dirt and debris inside there. Same thing in here. I'm going to clean these out and put some fresh grease in there. So we get a rag, we'll get this going. And just going to use some brake cleaner on this just to kind of get all the dirt, debris, garbage out of here. Let's clean it up. Same thing, just run this through. When this is done, I'm going to put some fresh grease on here. All right, so that one's good. That's pretty simple. Do the same thing on the other one. That's not too bad. Clean that up. Go through here. All right, now one's cleaned up. Like I said, we'll put some grease on this in a moment, but first I want to clean this out. So rather than spray directly in there, I'm just going to spray it on the rag. Just kind of clean up in here. Right, my bad. Can I take this spin around? The other side's clean. Not bad. The dirt and debris that builds up in there every time I get trail, so that's pretty good. And clean that out a little bit. Now, with the wheel off, trying not to touch this at all or compress these at all. I'm trying to leave it as is. That way I can just slide this right back in when I'm ready. Otherwise, it's going to be a pain to deal with later on. So, all right, so we got that cleaned up. I'm going to take a break for a second. I need to get Allen keys. We're going to take these covers off. We're going to clean these out a little bit and clean the covers, and then we'll put all that back on. So be right back in a second. I don't want to take the whole thing off because then you have to undo these. I don't really feel like doing all that. So I'm just going to pull it back enough that I can get this rag in here. Kind of clean this out a little bit. Just whatever dust and debris is in there. Same thing around the shock. Just kind of clean this off a little bit. And I'm pretty good about cleaning. Usually after every single ride, I'm pretty anal about it. I come back, I wash it, detail the bike, I clean all this stuff. So I try to get in here as much as I can, clean this up, and keep it from getting too gunked up with dirt and debris and garbage that could cause damage later on. So I try to prevent it as much as possible. It just saves me a lot of hassles down the road and money spent on parts, trying to replace things if they get damaged. So that's not too bad. I mean, that's good enough to get most of that debris, just a little bit of dust and garbage out of there, just so it's not getting up into those fork seals. So go ahead and put these on, and then we'll do the other side. Get that one set up. So if you want them snug, you don't need to over tighten them. Definitely don't want to do any damage, strip them out or anything, but just snug. So we're done with that one. We'll work on this other side now. Break that loose. Sure, close that way. Something I've found, and I'm going to probably end up doing, is down the road they make a bolt kit for this bike. Literally has all these little nuts and bolts, everything you need, especially for the body panels. Because doing all your service work, you're taking things off and on. Eventually things start to get loose or stripped out, and you're gonna have to replace these bolts over time. So I'm actually gonna work on ordering that. I think it's on either Amazon or eBay. You can find these little bolt kits, and they're pretty cheap. So I'm gonna do that, and then probably, I don't know, maybe over the summer sometime, I'll take everything apart and just go ahead and put all new bolts on, just so I don't have anything to worry about, anything stripping out or breaking down the road. So, yeah, just wipe it all down. You can see here all the dirt and debris, and over time this is going to get up here into these fork seals and could cause a leak or damage. So I'm just going to go ahead and clean all that off, get the dust and debris and garbage out of this. Pretty good. And even though this is fairly clean, I'm going to go ahead and just wipe some of this grease off and put some fresh grease on. Just start from new. I got it off, so might as well. All right. So let me go get the grease, get this set up. So I've got this stuff here called Maxima Racing Oils. It's waterproof grease. So this is what I'm using today. So just take this off, and I just put a little bit on my finger. Just kind of here, just dab it on there. Rub it around. thing. We put grease back in these little washers here. Put a little bit around the outside. It kind of just helps it stick to this a little bit because these are kind of a pain to put back on. They tend to want to fall off. So we got that one. We'll take this and turn it around. Do the same thing on this side. And then again, just a little on the outside. Like I said, I just want this to kind of stick to it and stay on just so it doesn't slide off as easily. And this one, for whatever reason, being on the side of the rotor, I don't know why, but this one always seems to fall off. I have a funny feeling today it'll stay on and it'll be the other one that falls off. But regardless, there it is. That's all set. All right, now pain in the ass part is trying to line this up and get it back together. So I'm trying to line this up as much as I can, make it easy as possible, because I'm gonna have to lift it up, slide it in, slide the rotor in, balance it, and get that bolt back in at the same time. So this ought to be interesting. And that's exactly what I was talking about. This is a pain in the ass. All right, guys, we're gonna make this work. Got that far. So rotor somewhat in. Now we can line up the axle bolt here. There's one. All right, line up the other side. This will fit. And it definitely helps if you got a second set of hands to do this, because this is a pain in the balls. All right, now we're getting somewhere, maybe. There we go. Whew. Wow, that was a pain in the sack. All right. Oh, Jesus. That was a lot of fun. Just make sure everything's running smooth. Nice. All right. Nice and smooth. Nothing's catching. Good deal. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and lower this down just to stabilize the wheel, and then I can get a little more torque on this and we'll tighten up the other two bolts. All right, so it stands out of the way. Try to crank this down a little bit because we got quite a bit of gap there, it looks like. All right, so got that. Go back to our 10 mil. And these we're just gonna tighten back down. And these I don't want to over tighten and pinch this, so I'm gonna just make sure they're on snug, but not too overly tight where I can do any damage. All right, so that should be pretty good. So there you go. So today, I think we got everything done now that I needed to do just for today at least. So again, we went over the front sprocket, which I originally was a 13-tooth sprocket, had that on there. We had to loosen up the rear, loosen up the chain, took the 13 off, put the 14 on, tightened up the chain, got the right tension back on it, the wheel back into alignment. So that was set and done. 14 tooth was complete. And then we went to the front tire, jacked this up, took the front tire off, took the covers here for the forks, took these off, cleaned the forks off, all the dust, debris off, regreased the axle, cleaned everything obviously first, regreased the axle, regreased the washers that go in here, put everything back together, and now we're ready to ride. So I think that's it for today. I've had enough fun for the last couple hours, so I think I'm going to go ahead and take this thing out for a ride and enjoy the rest of my day. So you guys do the same. Catch you on the next one. Later.